guys, we're going to start now the assembly of the Firefly and the magnetic tow truck, both of which are included on these two sprues. As you can see, all of these components here are for the Firefly, plus the tracks, and these little nozzles, or whatever these are, that go on the back. And the rest is all going to be for the magnetic tow truck. So the first thing we got to do is start separating our two trucks here. So let's just start pulling our parts off. So then the first thing we're going to do is start cleaning up all our nub marks, and then we'll take a look at the assembly procedure. Okay guys, if we look at the instructions, these two little arms that hold the shovel blade here have to go in a certain way. The longer arm goes down toward the bottom, and the shorter arm goes up toward the top. And that's going to give us our inclination of the shovel this way. So you got to make sure you put them in the right direction. Otherwise, your shovel won't be facing the correct direction when you attach it to the vehicle. Now we're going to attach the parts there. We're going to attach these right to the shovel now, as we're going to be painting them together.
Yeah, that's good, because you create a little bit of sense of anticipation. Oh, it stopped. What's it going to do now? Oh, I'll wait. And it goes, you see.
Now, something that I noticed when assembling the magnetic tow trucks, when you assemble the two halves of the body, as shown in the instructions here, there's going to be a nasty seam that travels around the entire circumference of that body. And if you look at the pictures of the magnetic tow truck, that seam just isn't there. So now it's going to require quite a bit of filling and sanding to remove that seam, so that when we paint it, it looks smooth, just like the car used in the show. Alright guys, now it's time to apply some color. We're going to start by putting the main body color on, which is the Mission Models Yellow. Love these Mission Models paints. They require a little bit of thinning. I usually do about a 50-50 mix of thinner to paint with their branded thinner, but they spray beautifully, they lay nicely, and once you start putting the color in and you start layering it up, you can make the color be exactly what you want it to be. So come on, let's do some painting.
tong tong lele lulu mayang tong 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 lele lulu mayang
Okay, guys, now that we've gotten the main body painted, it's time to start adding in details. There are all sorts of little greebles and bits and pieces on the hull of the vehicle that need to get painted in so that they stand out and give you something visually interesting to look at. I started off by doing a little research and coming up with some pictures. I'll put one right up here of the actual car used in the show. And then I just started to transfer that to the details that are on the actual model itself. It doesn't have everything, but at this small size, it's pretty much impossible to have everything. So I did the initial detailing in flat black from Tamiya. Then I did the Gundam paints from Mr. Hobby, Gundam Red for the red stripe and marking across the front of the ship. Then I added the Tamiya Titanium Silver for all the little greebles on the hull. It's just a whole bunch of little bits and pieces that go to making this thing look pretty neat. I used the Citadel paints, lead belcher base for the tracks. I used the Tamiya, I forget what color that was for the wheels. Okay, that was dark iron for the track wheels. So all of that goes together along with the yellow for the body to make a pretty nice looking tiny little model. So I'm going to go ahead and keep painting this stuff. So hang out with me and we'll see where we end up. Alright guys, now we're going to start the panel lining. You'll notice the ship is not a flat color, it's actually glossy, because after I painted the Mission Models yellow, I went over it with Mission Models Gloss Clear, because that allows the panel liner to do its job effectively. If you try to use a panel line paint on flat colors, it'll just soak into the paint and spread out and stain it. Whereas when it goes over the clear, it allows the panel line paint to run using capillary action through the line that you're trying to highlight. You can see how it's working perfectly here as it travels through the engraved lines that I used to paint the red markings on the ship. Here we go, right here. You can watch the panel liner just go right through it. And if you happen to put a little too much on, don't worry about it. Pretty easily, it cleans up pretty easily. And you can just wipe it off while it's still wet. I usually keep a Q-tip around just to do a little bit of cleanup in case anything goes where I don't want it to. But overall, the panel line paint just goes into all of the recesses and really, really does a good job of bringing out the details. So we're going to keep doing that, and you can see how the stuff works. If you have never tried it, I would highly recommend it, especially if you like to do a lot of sci-fi modeling like I do. Alright guys, now we're going to start our chipping. For this, I'm using Tamiya flat black, as it's really going to stand out against the bright yellow paint. And I'm going to use my smallest paintbrush, as I need to make the chip as close to scale correct as I can. And this tiny little paintbrush, which I think is a 00, I think is the size of this brush, allows me to make tiny little marks into the paint to resemble chips that would be scale correct for something that's 1/350th scale. It's supposed to be a very large car, so the chips can't be that big. And this little brush allows me to make chips of various sizes, and it's not the easiest thing in the world on something this small, but it's not impossible. So I'm going to keep doing this as I go around the body, looking for areas that I think it would have received impacts or kicked up dirt or rocks around the bottom of the skirts surrounding the tire treads. And since this is a heavy construction vehicle and this thing is constantly lifting and throwing things around, it's going to get scratched all over the body. So I'm just going to put the chips where I think they would most likely occur and just keep going till it looks right to me. I mean, chipping basically is all about how it looks to you and how much distress you want to show on the vehicle. There really is no wrong way to do it. The hardest part is just keeping the chips scale correct. So I'm going to keep going on it here and check out my chipping. Okay guys, and here we have the finished result. Both fireflies completed, painted, and pretty much done. My last decision will be whether I flat coat them or leave them glossy. I'm kind of liking the glossy look with the chipped up paint. Something about that, it just looks right to me. So they're probably going to stay glossy. The next step will be maybe to dirty them up a little bit more. But basically, they're done. I'm very happy with the way they came out. All the different metallic shades really work and play nicely together on the model. The chipping seems to have worked exactly the way I wanted to. So now we're going to move on to the next vehicle. So this is going to end it for this video. In the next episode, you're going to see the magnetic tow trucks going together. There's 2 of those also. So come on back for that. And I'm going to leave you with a couple more beauty shots of the fireflies. as I'm really, really thrilled with the way they came out. And when you take into account how small they are, it was a little more difficult than working on the big stuff. So I'll see you guys on the next one.